There is a particular agony in being silenced, not merely in the absence of words, but in the crushing weight of being unheard, unseen, and dismissed, as though your existence were an inconvenience to the world. You see, there was a time when your voice carried dreams that were delicate yet fierce, full of quiet hope, but they could not bear the sound of it. Your ambition, your resilience, your stubborn refusal to fade, it disturbed them. It rattled the foundations of their comfort. So they tried to silence you, not with kindness but with cruelty clothed in concern. They smiled with false sweetness, yet their eyes betrayed a bitter desire to see you shrink into the shadows. They painted your voice as noise, your passion as foolishness, your determination as arrogance. In subtle ways and in sharp assaults, they tried to push you into a corner where your light could not escape. You felt it, didn't you? The cold hush that followed your ideas, the dismissive glances, the ridicule disguised as advice. How many nights did you wrestle with the storm inside you, questioning whether they were right? How many mornings did you wake with a heavy chest, wondering if it was worth speaking your truth at all? You were not simply fighting their voices. You were battling the echo of their doubts inside your own mind. But here lies the great irony. They believed they could bury your voice beneath the weight of their silence. What they did not understand is this: silence, imposed by others, is not the death of the soul. It is the birthplace of thunder. For in the silence they forced upon you, something extraordinary began to grow. In the quiet, you heard not their mocking whispers, but the roar of your own destiny. The very stillness they hoped would smother you became the chamber where your resolve echoed louder and louder, until it could no longer be contained, until it burst forth not as a mere word, but as a triumphant roar that would rattle their ears and haunt their conscience. They wanted your silence, but what they have now is far more unbearable. They have your success shouting through every corridor where they once tried to silence you. Every achievement you gather, every victory you claim becomes a trumpet that blares across their quiet illusions. Your progress is the thunderclap that interrupts their comfort. Your perseverance is the storm they never anticipated. And your success? It is the undeniable voice they can never mute. Pause here and let me ask you this. Do you realize the power that your survival holds? Have you yet recognized that your persistence is louder than their ridicule ever was? Reflect for a moment, not on their attempts to suppress you, but on how magnificently you have risen despite them. Could it be that the very force they tried to kill has now grown too mighty for them to endure? The answer is already roaring in your heart. And now, as we journey deeper, let us unfold the 7 truths that reveal how your rise to success has become the echo they can never escape, each point a strike of the bell that rings in their ears. Not in vengeance, but as a testament to your unbreakable spirit. Your resilience became their unseen nightmare. They never imagined you would last this long. They thought a few harsh words, a few acts of betrayal, a few backhanded comments would be enough to silence you. To them, you were a fragile dreamer, someone they believed could be broken with just a little pressure, someone who would crumble if ignored long enough. And so they set the trap, not with weapons but with calculated distance, with cold silence, with whispered sarcasm that cut deeper than any blade. They didn't need to shout to hurt you. Their silence said everything. And you heard it loud and clear. You felt their absence like a void swallowing your worth. You noticed how they stopped clapping when your name was mentioned, how their support evaporated the moment your potential became visible. You were no threat when you were small, when your ideas were only seeds. But when those seeds started to take root, when your voice gained strength, when your vision started becoming real, that's when they turned. They didn't want to see you fail because they hated you. They wanted to see you fail because your success would be a mirror to everything they refused to become. You were supposed to fold. That was their expectation. They didn't prepare for your survival. They never imagined you would rise in the quiet, away from their praise, with no spotlight, no applause, no validation. But that's exactly what happened. While they watched and waited for your collapse, you became acquainted with your own strength. You fought your battles in silence. You stitched your wounds alone. And each time they thought you were done for, you were only gathering more resolve. Their worst nightmare wasn't your defiance. It was your endurance. Because endurance cannot be denied. It is not flashy or loud. It is not posted for likes or shared for approval. It is invisible at first, but it builds layer by layer until it forms a foundation so strong, no ridicule can shake it. You became that foundation. Their dismissal was supposed to destroy you, but instead it revealed how unstoppable you truly are. Do you remember those nights when you stared at the ceiling, wondering if you were crazy for dreaming bigger than your surroundings would allow? The voices around you said, "Stop trying, this isn't for you, know your place." But something inside you wouldn't die. Something sacred whispered, "Keep going, keep fighting, you're not done yet." That whisper, they couldn't hear it. And because they couldn't hear it, they thought it didn't exist. But it was louder than all their opinions combined. And now? Now they see the results. They see your progress. They feel the tremble of your steps as you walk into spaces they said you didn't belong in. They hear your name in rooms they once claimed only for themselves. Every time they pretend not to notice you, it costs them a little more peace, because deep down they know you were never weak, you were never fragile, you were simply becoming. Your strength, your survival, your success, it isn't loud, it doesn't need to be. It speaks in the discomfort it causes them. It echoes in their restless thoughts. They tried to silence you, but you spoke louder through your actions. They tried to erase you, but your presence now writes itself in bold ink across everything they once ignored. And the most haunting part? You didn't come back with revenge. You didn't return with bitterness or hate. You rose with grace. And grace, when wrapped in victory, speaks louder than any scream. That grace, your grace, is now the voice they cannot escape. Your growth mocked their doubts. There was a time they laughed when you spoke of your dreams, not the kind of laughter that brings lightness, but the kind that drips with venom, coated in disbelief. You remember the way they would glance at each other when you spoke with passion, their smirks slicing through your confidence. Their words were dressed as jokes, but the message was always the same. You won't make it. And worse still, they convinced others to believe it too. You carried that burden, not just of doubt, but of being doubted by those closest to you. They didn't just question your ability, they ridiculed your courage. They didn't want to see what could grow from your hunger, because your hunger exposed their complacency. Your desire to rise made them uncomfortable with standing still. You became a reminder of everything they gave up on, and so the easiest way to protect their ego was to tear down yours. But you didn't stop, not because it was easy, it wasn't. You kept going while feeling the sting of isolation. You moved forward with nothing but faith and exhaustion. You watered your potential in private, tending to it like a secret garden no one else believed existed. And while they were busy dismissing your growth, you were quietly building your future. Now they're seeing the garden bloom, and it's blinding. Your success is not just a victory, it's a contradiction to their narrative. A living, breathing rebuttal to every "you can't," every "you're not enough," every "you should give up." You didn't argue back then. You didn't scream to prove your worth. You let time speak for you. and time has proven you right. It burns them, doesn't it? To see the very thing they mocked grow into something so undeniable, to watch you become what they said you'd never be. Your existence now is proof, not only that they were wrong, but that their doubt meant nothing. It was never about what they said. It was always about what you believed when no one else did. Can you feel it now? That quiet, sacred confidence? The kind that no one can steal because you earned it through pain, through perseverance, through every lonely step they thought would break you. You didn't grow in spite of their doubt, you grew because of it. It gave you fire, it gave you reason. Every time they said no, you heard prove them wrong. And now your growth stands taller than their pride can bear. Every time your name comes up in conversations they wish they could control, it reminds them that their version of your story was incomplete. It reminds them that they do not hold the pen to your destiny. They tried to plant doubt in your soil. Instead, they fed your roots. And now your bloom is too loud to ignore. Your voice grew louder in their absence. There is a cruel irony in how they believed their absence would diminish you. In their minds, they thought that withdrawing their support, their praise, and their presence would make your voice fade into the background, like an echo lost in the vast emptiness. They assumed that if they left you standing alone, you would feel so small, so insignificant, that you would stop speaking altogether. But they never understood the nature of true strength. They never realized that sometimes it is in the deepest silence that the loudest voices are born. You remember the void they left behind. You remember looking around and seeing the spaces they once occupied now filled with nothing but quiet. It hurt, didn't it? That painful realization that the people you once thought would be your biggest supporters had vanished when you needed them the most. They didn't even offer an explanation. They simply stepped back, assuming their absence would suffocate your fire. But instead of suffocating you, their absence did something extraordinary. It cleared the noise. It cleared the distractions, the conflicting voices, the subtle manipulations that kept you second-guessing yourself. Without their interference, you finally heard the one voice that had always mattered the most, your own. And when you heard it, truly heard it, it was not the fragile whisper they expected. It was strong, it was clear, it was defiant. In the quiet spaces they left behind, you found your rhythm. In the stillness, you discovered your truth. You realized you didn't need their validation to move forward. You didn't need their applause to know your worth. And the beauty of this awakening is that it made your voice independent of their influence. It grew free, untamed, and powerful beyond their comprehension. Their absence, which they believed would be your undoing, became the very soil in which your voice took root and flourished. Without their shadow looming over you, you learned to trust your own light. Without their constant doubt poisoning your path, you found clarity in your direction. Every word you now speak carries the weight of this hard-earned freedom, and it echoes far louder than anything they could have ever imagined. And now, they cannot escape it. They hear your voice in places they thought you'd never reach. They hear it in rooms where they once confidently assumed you'd be silent forever. They hear it in conversations they are not part of, in praises they can no longer control. Your voice has transcended their limitations, and that reality haunts them more than they will ever admit. Ask yourself this: did you ever think you could stand so tall in the space they abandoned? Did you ever imagine your voice would rise so powerfully from the silence they tried to bury you under? You did. Somewhere deep inside, you always knew. Even when fear tried to muffle your courage, you knew your voice carried purpose. And now, that purpose has outgrown their shallow expectations. Their mistake was believing they were your oxygen. They thought if they withdrew, you would suffocate. But what they didn't see was that you were learning to breathe on your own, to draw strength from places they never touched. And now, every word you speak is not just sound, it is a declaration of independence. A reminder that their absence only made you stronger. Your voice has become an anthem of resilience. It echoes through the walls they tried to build around you. It seeps into the cracks of their denial, reminding them that you are no longer dependent on anyone's permission to speak your truth. What they once believed would be your silence has turned into a relentless roar that follows them wherever they go. Your achievements expose their small-mindedness. There is a particular discomfort that comes when someone is forced to confront the limits of their own imagination, especially when they see you, someone they dismissed, surpassing every boundary they believed defined you. They thought they had you all figured out. In their narrow vision, you were destined to remain small, bound by the limitations they placed around you. They looked at your beginnings, at your struggles, and they confidently assumed you would never break free from the cage they built in their minds. You see, they judged you not by your potential, but by their own limitations. They measured your future by the yardstick of their own failures and fears. They couldn't imagine greatness for you because they couldn't imagine it for themselves. So they projected their fears onto you, wrapping them in skepticism and ridicule, and presented them as reality. They mistook their lack of vision for the truth of your destiny, but here is where their blindness became their downfall. While they were busy confining you to the small box of their expectations, you were quietly building wings. You were expanding your horizons in silence, away from their scrutinizing eyes. You were learning, growing, preparing for a flight they never anticipated. And when you finally soared, you shattered every boundary they had so confidently erected. Your achievements now stand as monuments to the vastness of your potential, monuments that cast long shadows over their small-mindedness. Every step you take forward illuminates the narrowness of their thinking. Every success you claim exposes the poverty of their imagination, and the more you rise, the more uncomfortable they become, because your very existence challenges the limitations they once saw as unbreakable truths. Consider this. How often did they try to reduce your dreams to dust? How many times did they speak as though your ambitions were childish fantasies? Yet now, those same dreams are taking shape before their eyes, undeniable and real. Their discomfort is not just in your success, it is in the realization that they were wrong, deeply, painfully wrong. There is no escape for them from this truth. They see your name where they never expected to see it. They hear of your victories in spaces they believed were forever closed to you. And every time they are reminded of your success, they are also reminded of their own lack of faith, their own small vision, their own failure to see beyond their limited scope. Your achievements serve as mirrors they cannot avoid. In these mirrors they see not only your growth, but also their stagnation. They see the time they wasted doubting you. They see the energy they spent trying to contain you, only to watch you surpass them with grace and strength. This reflection is a bitter pill they are forced to swallow, and it stays with them long after the applause for your victories has faded. You did not need to seek revenge. You did not need to shout back at their skepticism. Your progress is loud enough. Your milestones speak volumes. And with every new height you reach, you widen the gap between your reality and their small-minded predictions. This gap is not just distance. It is a declaration that you have outgrown their limitations, and no matter how much they shrink their world, they cannot shrink your achievements. Ask yourself this: are you not living proof that their limitations were never yours to carry? Does not every success you claim whisper to their pride that they were mistaken? Yes. With every accomplishment, you are not only building your legacy, you are tearing down their false assumptions brick by brick. And as you continue to rise, the walls of their small-mindedness collapse under the weight of your undeniable triumphs. Your silence was strategic, not defeat. They misread your silence as surrender. In their shallow perception, quietness could only mean you had given up, that you had run out of strength, that you had no more fight left inside you. They saw you step back and they smirked in triumph, believing they had finally silenced the voice they found too unsettling to bear. They thought your stillness was the end of your story. What they never understood is that silence is not always the sound of defeat. Sometimes it is the sound of preparation. While they celebrated your absence, you were gathering strength beneath the surface. You were not retreating to hide, you were retreating to rebuild. They saw an empty stage, but you saw a moment to sharpen your tools, to clear the fog from your mind, to align your heart with the battle ahead. You understood what they never could, that there is power in the pause. In the quiet, you found clarity. In the stillness, you heard the deeper call of your destiny, echoing louder than their doubts ever could. You were watching, weren't you? Observing how they revealed their true faces when they thought you were gone. In your silence, you witnessed their impatience, their arrogance, their false confidence rising to the surface. You saw how quickly they dismissed you, as if you were nothing but a momentary flame flickering out. Yet, you were never extinguished. You were conserving your fire, gathering it within so that when you returned, you would blaze brighter than ever. Ask yourself, did you not feel a strange power in that silence? Even as you doubted yourself at times, even as their absence wounded you, was there not a quiet part of your soul that whispered, wait, watch, prepare? That whisper, so gentle yet so relentless, kept you alive. It kept you focused when distractions could have torn you apart. It kept you grounded when emotions threatened to sweep you away. Your silence was not an accident. It was an act of strategy, a deliberate choice to step back in order to leap forward with greater force. They never saw it coming. How could they? They were too busy mistaking your patience for weakness. They were too consumed with their own short-sighted victory to notice the storm brewing within you. While they mocked your quiet, you were fortifying your spirit, stitching together every torn piece of your courage, molding your pain into power. Every sleepless night, every tear shed in solitude, every whispered prayer beneath your breath, it was all part of your quiet construction. And when the moment came, you emerged not as the broken figure they imagined, but as a force they could not comprehend. You moved with precision, spoke with clarity, and carried yourself with a dignity that silenced their mockery without you ever needing to respond. Your actions roared louder than their insults. Your progress outshined their doubts. What they thought was the end was only your beginning. Your silence became your strongest language. It spoke of patience when they expected panic. It spoke of wisdom when they anticipated weakness. In that silence, you wrote chapters of your story they will one day wish they had read. You crafted victories they cannot erase and built foundations they can never shake. Their mistake was confusing your pause for an ending, when it was, in truth, the quiet before the storm. Your victory rewrites their narrative. They thought they had already written your ending. In their minds, your story was closed, filed away under failure, as if their judgment was the final word on your life. They spoke of you in past tense, as if you were a fleeting chapter they could forget. They told others, and they told themselves, that you wouldn't make it, that you were a dreamer with no anchor, a voice that would fade into nothing. They built a narrative about you, one where you were small, insignificant, and powerless to change your fate. But they underestimated something vital. They underestimated the power of a story still unfolding. While they tried to seal your fate with their words, you were quietly rewriting the pages they thought were already finished. Every step you took in silence was a sentence being carved into the story they could no longer control. They had crafted a version of you based on their limited understanding, based on their shallow view of your potential. But you refused to live according to their script. You chose to become the author of your own journey. There is a peculiar kind of pain that comes to those who realize the story they told themselves about you no longer fits the reality staring them in the face. And now, every time they hear your name, every time they see your progress, they are forced to confront the uncomfortable truth that they were wrong. Your success has become a living contradiction to the tale they once told. Remember how they doubted you? How they rolled their eyes at your ambitions? How they smirked at your goals? How they whispered behind your back that you would never reach beyond your circumstances? They spoke as though they knew your limits, as though they had the authority to define your boundaries. But their mistake was believing that your story was theirs to write. They never realized that every word of discouragement they threw at you was fuel for your fire. You took their sentences of doubt and turned them into paragraphs of resilience. You took their chapters of criticism and rewrote them into volumes of triumph. Line by line, you dismantled their narrative, replacing it with a story of perseverance and unstoppable determination, and now they have no choice but to read what you have written, and what they read terrifies them. Because your victory does not merely represent your success, it symbolizes their failure to understand your strength. Every accomplishment you achieve becomes a loud revision to their story, a public correction to their false assumptions. You have taken the pen from their hands without ever needing to confront them directly. Your actions alone have erased their chapters of defeat and replaced them with a saga of endurance and glory. Think about this deeply. They thought they were narrating your downfall, but all along you were silently authoring your rise. They believed their voices would drown out yours, but your story was never dependent on their approval. It was always born from something far stronger, your belief in the vision planted inside your heart. Now they must watch as the story unfolds in a direction they never anticipated. They see you standing taller than their predictions ever allowed. They hear your name spoken in places they once tried to bar you from. And each success you claim is a new chapter written boldly across the pages they once tried to fill with failure. There is no escaping this narrative now. It follows them into their quiet moments. It lingers in their thoughts when they recall the certainty with which they dismissed you. They cannot erase your victories, nor can they rewrite history to favor their old assumptions. The story has outgrown them, and your life now speaks louder than any words they once spoke against you. Their narrative was small because their imagination was small, but your life, your triumphs, your relentless pursuit of your purpose, these have expanded far beyond the tiny story they tried to confine you within. What they once called impossible now stands before them as undeniable truth. And though they may try to pretend otherwise, they know deep down that your victory has rewritten every line they ever dared to write about you. Your existence is now their unending reminder. They thought they could escape you by turning their back. They believed that if they walked away, shut the door, and left you in the shadows, you would disappear from their world completely. In their minds, distance meant freedom. They imagined that without their presence, you would crumble quietly and they would never have to think of you again. But what they failed to understand is this: you were never just a chapter they could close. You were the very thread woven through their story, and the more they tried to pull it out, the more their story began to unravel. They believed their silence would bury your presence, that ignoring you would erase your significance. But it only amplified you. Even in your quietest moments, you lived rent-free in their thoughts. When they laid their heads on their pillows at night, they felt a restlessness they couldn't explain. When they woke each morning and faced their reflection, they saw the shadow of what they tried to forget. Because no matter how far they tried to run, They could not run from the memory of your resilience. What they underestimated most was the power of your simple existence. You see, you didn't need grand speeches or loud announcements. You didn't have to shout your success from the rooftops. All you had to do was continue being, continue rising, continue living in the fullness of the purpose they once mocked. And that, in itself, became the very thing that tormented them. Your existence has become a mirror they cannot avoid. Every time they catch a glimpse of your progress, it reflects their failures. Not just their failure to see your worth, but their failure to stop you. They remember every word of doubt they threw at you, every insult hidden behind a smile, every moment they rejoiced in your setbacks. And now, with every step you take forward, you force them to relive their own short-sightedness. Ask yourself, do you not feel it? Do you not sense the weight of your presence growing heavier in the corners of their mind? You are not chasing them, yet they cannot escape you. You are not haunting them with words, yet your very life has become an echo they cannot silence. The success you carry, the growth you embody, the light that surrounds you, it shines so brightly that even with their eyes closed, they cannot block it out. What they once hoped would fade has only intensified. Time, which they believed would erase your impact, has instead magnified it. With every passing day, you become harder to ignore. Your name surfaces in places they never thought it would reach. Your story travels through circles they once considered safe from your influence. You are everywhere, not because you forced yourself into their world, but because your journey has naturally expanded beyond the limits they tried to set for you. There is a deep discomfort in realizing that the person you once dismissed has grown into a force beyond your control. They experience this discomfort every time they hear your name unexpectedly mentioned in conversation. They feel it when someone praises you in their presence, unaware of the history you share. They sense it when they see you thriving in spaces they believed you would never enter. Your existence is not a thorn in their side, it is a growing forest that surrounds them. No matter which path they take, they encounter reminders of you. The life you built serves as living evidence of your victory, and it silently shouts the truth they tried to bury. You are no longer someone they can erase from their story. In fact, you have become a chapter they must read over and over, whether they like it or not. Their efforts to silence you, to dismiss you, to cast you aside, all of it has backfired. The absence they hoped would diminish you has only made your presence more powerful. You thrive not in spite of their betrayal, but because of it. You grow not away from their attempts to destroy you, but through them. Your existence carries the weight of every battle you've fought, every tear you've shed, every doubt you've conquered. Now, even in their quiet moments, they cannot escape the truth. You are still here. You are still rising. You are still living, breathing, shining proof that they were wrong. And no matter how far they run, how tightly they close their eyes, how loudly they try to silence the noise, the sound of your success follows them. It trails them like an unshakable shadow, whispering in their ears the one truth they tried so desperately to deny. Your existence is not just survival, it is defiance, it is triumph, and it is the echo they can never escape. And now, as you stand at this moment of reflection, I want you to understand something that perhaps, deep down, you have always known but needed to hear aloud. Their attempts to silence you were never about your weakness. They were about their fear of your strength. From the very beginning, they saw something in you that terrified them. The spark of potential, the unyielding spirit, the quiet fire that refused to go out no matter how much darkness they tried to cast upon you. They tried to suffocate it because they recognized the truth you had not yet fully embraced. You were destined to rise. What they thought was the end of your voice was only the beginning of your roar. Every stone they threw became a step beneath your feet. Every door they slammed shut forced you to build new doors of your own. And every moment they rejoiced in your silence only prepared them for the day they would hear your success thunder in their ears over and over again, louder than they could ever silence. Let this truth settle in your heart. Your success is not accidental. It is not luck. It is not a fleeting moment. It is the harvest of the seeds you planted in pain, watered with tears, and nurtured in silence. It is the reward for every sleepless night, for every time you pressed forward when you felt like giving up, for every silent battle you fought alone when no one believed in you. This success, this roar of your existence, is your rightful claim, and it is the sound they can never escape. They tried to erase your voice, but now your very being echoes through the corridors of their memory. They cannot shut it out. They cannot mute your victories. Every accomplishment you claim is a reminder that they failed to bury you. Every time you rise, they are forced to confront the reality that your destiny was never in their hands. But beyond their regret, beyond their discomfort, lies the most important truth of all. This is your story now. It no longer belongs to the people who doubted you, betrayed you, or tried to silence you. It belongs to you, the survivor, the fighter, the one who turned wounds into wisdom and pain into power. It belongs to the one who rose not because others believed, but because you believed when no one else did. So, carry your head high. Walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth. Let your life continue to be the loudest answer to their doubt. Let your existence be the thunder that shakes the walls of their false narratives. And most of all, let your success be the music that plays endlessly in their minds, a melody of triumph, of resilience, of a voice that refused to be silenced. Because in the end, your victory is not just for you. It is a testimony for every soul who has been pushed into silence, every heart that has been broken by betrayal, every dream that was mocked before it could bloom. Your success roars not only in their ears, but in the hearts of all who dare to rise again. They wanted to silence you. Now they live in the echo of your triumph.